tactical driving, a lot of shooting, combat training, fighting. It's everything you could think of. They teach you everything. I didn't take a single criminal justice class in my life. I didn't need to. They taught me everything there. So that is what you do. You wake up at, I think I would wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. we were on. This is, my memory's fading, but early morning, you're on, you're ready, you're in class, and you get your schedule of where you need to go every day. You're in your uniform, you're running. You know what they did, and I'm sure they did this to you, like they would never, when they take us like on runs, they would never tell us how far or how long we were going. Yeah. It was just, I think that was the hardest part. You didn't know when the pain would end.
Yeah. And
so that was hard for me because I wasn't used to that. Like, let me know when this stops. They wouldn't tell you. And it wasn't like, hey, I just got to do up to this point or up to that point. It was just like this agony of like, I don't know. The other thing that was hard about training is at any point you could fail out. And that was really stressful. And I went from being in a class of 1,500 cadets to 54. So here I was a person and everybody knew your name. So the other thing that was big there is, I don't want to say shame, but everybody knew how everybody else did. If you sucked at shooting, everybody knew. If you failed a test, everybody knew. In fact, they would post grades up so everybody could see each other's stuff. So your performance was out there. And so I think it definitely incentivized or scared me to really do better. I don't want to shame myself. But if you pass that, which I did, then you go to Beltsville, which is in Maryland, and that's where your Secret Service training is. So now you go through that academy, and that's their shooting, which is probably some of the, I've done federal law enforcement and NYPD. That was the hardest shooting I ever did. In fact, the reason why they had you shoot like to this level was because you as an agent, Secret Service agent, would likely be shooting into crowds of people because you're protecting presidents. And they had to make sure you were really good. So shooting, something I loved, turned out to be a super stressful thing for me. And I loved shooting, but it was hard. And you had to pass that. Driving, same thing. Now you're driving armored vehicles. And the armored vehicles, especially the president's limo, the Beast, that's a very hard thing to drive because you've got the inertia of the car and they had cones and all this stuff. That was difficult. And then fighting, training, tactics, law, all that. Then if you pass that, then you graduate. When you graduate, you get sent to a field office. You don't have a choice of what field office you go to. They'll ask you, but they don't care. I asked for New York, and lucky for me, nobody wants to go to New York. So I get to go back home because nobody wants to go there. And then you start working as an agent in the field office. That's how you start.
How long is FLETC and the Secret Service Academy?
3.5 months each.
Okay. In the Secret Service portion, or I guess if you compare the both the physical and mental kind of coupling of how tough and pressure oriented it is, NYPD Academy, FLETC, Secret Service, which one is the most difficult?
They were all hard in their own way. NYPD was hard because nobody cared. You were a body. It's not that they were being mean. They were just toughening you up. Probably Secret Service because everyone's watching you, So if you get up on that pull-up bar and you can't do a pull-up, full disclosure, I went to U.S. Secret Service training. In NYPD, I never had to do a pull-up. So I go to U.S. Secret Service training. First day, they're like, get up and do a pull-up. I can't do one. Everybody Mike sees that I can't do one. And I was like, this isn't good. So I spent every day doing pull-ups, practicing. And I was like, I'm going to compete at the same level, also as the guys, because there were different qualifications for women. I found out later that there were. I didn't know. And I was just like, I'm going to compete at the guys' qualifications. I was like, I don't want to hear anything from anyone that I should not be here. And so that part, so I would work out during the day, because our training there was during the day. I would work out during the day with my group, and then at night, because I sucked at pull-ups and I sucked at running, I would run. And sometimes I would grab some of the guys who, like there's an Army Ranger in my class, Navy SEAL. I'd be like, hey, can I work out with you? Can I run with you? Because sometimes the guys would do it too, and they were like, come on in. So I had a good experience with that, but it was hard because I was with former Navy SEALs, former Army Rangers, and I had several months in the NYPD. I wasn't at that level. Yeah. Now I got in, I spoke languages, I had other talents that I brought in. But I had to make sure people knew that physically I should be there, and they had that right.
Yeah. Do you know what going back to some of the driving? Well, actually, before I get to that, you mentioned there's a different standard for women versus men. What's your personal take on that? Do you think that there should be?
This is a hard subject for a lot of people. I don't think there should be. I don't. And I want women to compete. I want women to do this stuff. But you have to physically be able to do, they should have one standard. It should be, everybody should be able to do this. Because the job requires this. So whatever the job requires, everybody should be able to do. So as long as those standards are fair and appropriate to what is required of the job, then yes, one standard. That's what I think, because if you can't run, if my run time as a woman is lower than the run time of my male counterpart, then if he needs help and I can't run there fast enough to help him, that is a problem. If I can't lift my own body weight, which by the end I was banging out my pull-ups, but if I can't lift my own body weight, how on earth am I going to lift the body weight of the President of the United States? Secret Service is a very physical job. If you look at all the other federal agencies, and there's no knock on them, you can do them from behind the desk, a lot of them. Every once in a while you go do a search warrant or arrest warrant. No knock on FBI. Great agency. U.S. Secret Service, there is a physical component to that you must meet those standards. So in that agency, I would say one line. There are certain places where it just should be the same. Everybody needs to do everything. So again, so long as those standards are fair and not designed to push out other people, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I think the key component there is reflective of what the job requires.
You have to physically be able to do it.
Yeah, yeah.